All right, it's Friday. That means it is time for the fantasy football and NFL pick segment of the Where Eagles Dare podcast with Lee and Tubby. Glad you could be here, whether you're watching us on YouTube, Facebook Live, or Twitch. This one we don't put out on the podcast, so it's just for streaming. It's for entertainment purposes only. And like we always say, we're not here to tell you how to gamble. This is for entertainment purposes only. And if you do have a gambling problem, call 1-800-STOP GAMBLING now. So anyway, with me as always is Tubby. How you feeling? It's Friday feelings right now, right? Are you feeling good?
I'm feeling good, man. I am feeling good. Going into this week, 3-1 in my fantasy. Eagles are 4-0. I'm having a good time right now. I can't complain. I can't complain.
I can't complain about the Eagles, but I can complain about fantasy because, and we'll get into this in a minute. But yeah, I'm 0-4 in fantasy, and as Mike Singletary once said when talking about his 0-4 team,
it is more about them than it is about the team. I cannot play with them, cannot win with them, cannot coach with them, can't do it.
Yeah, can't do it, and he's right. That's how I feel right now. Of course, I lost to you this weekend, and we'll break down that score. It sucked. It certainly did. But, that's fantasy. I don't think I've ever started a season off 0-4. So this is humbling. This is new for me. This is new ground. And I honestly don't think I have a bad team. If you look at my team, it's not filled with bums, but they're just not scoring points right now. This is a weird fantasy season for a lot of people. Because Christian McCaffrey's not scoring, Taylor's not scoring, Henry's not scoring. So, and it's kind of why I took Dalvin Cook over Henry, which was kind of stupid, but in retrospect, but it was one of the reasons was I had this voodoo thing over me. Like, man, I just think these top guys and Eckler's not scoring. So all those like predicted top, 5 running backs, none of them are producing. And it's the lower guys that are coming up, the younger guys, like they always do. So, and that's where we're at right now. But like I said, this is what we do each and every Friday. We go over our fantasy scores. We go over our predictions. We help you guys out with your lineup. So anybody that's joining the live stream to get fantasy help, just come on in with the comments at any time, and we'll go ahead and address them. We'll stop everything just for you so that we can find out what your needs are as far as fantasy. But let's do the business at hand. We have a game that's coming up on Sunday at 4:25 in Arizona. The Cardinals are going to be taking on our beloved Eagles. Zach Ertz, our former tight end, a big part of that offense. And we did a game preview on this yesterday. If you didn't catch it, you could check it out on YouTube at any time and find out what we think about our feelings going into this game. Because I think it's going to be a tough game. I think like I talked about it yesterday, I think it's a trap game because we've got Dallas right after this. And I know it's for most teams, when you're in that type of situation, it's about looking ahead to the big one. Everybody's now starting to look at this Dallas game as being, it's a potential, 5-0 versus 4-1 Sunday night football, big, huge matchup. But I found this meme online. It said, wait, if you call it a trap game before the game, is it still the trap game? I'm doing everything to get rid of the bad juju on this game. I want to talk about how great the Cardinals are, how dangerous they are going to be on offense. Anything I can to kind of not get overconfident, and I'm hoping the Eagles are doing the same thing. I think they are. I think this Eagles team, the coaching staff and everybody I think they're trying to prepare them to not look ahead and to take one opponent at a time.
Yeah, man. I mean, and when you have a good quarterback, anytime you're playing in an electrifying quarterback, and Kyler Murray, it doesn't matter how many bad games he's had. Will he have a bad game against you? Is what you need to worry about. Because at any given moment, that's why, like we talked about before, his height, he can't help that. So keep him in the pocket, make it hard for him to see. Because if he gets outside, like you mentioned, I mean, he has a great arm. He can throw the ball really quickly off a snap. You look at a lot of his completions, even last week, they're still like falling back, like off the back foot. It's like he's used to throwing like that because he's short, like he's used to throwing with that trajectory,
Yep.
That kind of that drop back. So, because if he gets outside, he can cost you 20, man, especially if we're in man. You think Jalen can hurt you. Jalen can hurt you and he'll still try to get out of bounds, or he may, if he wants to, he can make somebody pay in the midfield. But with Kyler, man, it could cost you 20 real quickly before you even know it. He's scattering for 20s out of bounds. You're just like, what just happened? So
right. And that's a great point. Something we didn't talk about yesterday, because I think you made an excellent point right there, because if we're in man and have our backs to him, that's a dangerous situation, because he is so electric, and it could be a matchup thing where the Eagles just don't match up with Kyler Murray where other teams have. But so, me, I'm always like man pressure. That's kind of my thing. But this is the kind of week where Gannon zone, now zone with some blitzing, with some zone blitz and disguising of your coverage would be really nice in this situation, because you got to keep Murray off balance. It's one of those things. You can't let him feel comfortable and be able to get outside the pocket. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be a fun game, but that's not why we're here today. We're here to talk fantasy. But before we get to fantasy, I did want to point out, I like bringing up my old tweets and Facebook posts. I found this one the other day from 10 years ago today. This is something I wrote in October 7th, 2012 about the Eagles. And it says, my prediction for the Eagles-Steelers game today. Andy Reid starts off running the ball, but after McCoy gets stuffed on one play, he abandons it and tries to pass exclusively. Vic makes over 40 attempts, but is hit and sacked multiple times. Somehow the defense keeps him in the game, and Philly has a chance to win in the fourth quarter. But because Reid has used all his timeouts in the third, they fall short. How do I know this? It happens every flipping Eagles game when they play tough teams. So when I was looking at this, we love Andy, and we're glad that he's had success in Kansas City and that he finally got his Super Bowl. But if you remember, when you read this, you go, you know what? That's Andy Reid, man. He would run and abandon it quick and go exclusively to the pass, and then never good clock management, always running out of timeouts at the end of the game when we needed them most. So I found this to be humorous, because I have a lot of memories of games that ended just like this. So it's so nice that we don't have that anymore. Now, I love Andy. I love Andy. I think he's a great coach. I think at this point in his career, there was a lot of things going on. He just was not in a great headspace his last few years as an Eagles coach, but this is what he was.
I think I'm upset that I wasn't on Facebook all those years to catch all these predictions and baby rants. I wasn't on. I'm shocked, man. I missed all of these. Like I said, I'm still not on Facebook, so I don't catch catch most of it. But I'm sure I'd have been right down there in the comments with you, probably agreeing, because Andy he was predictable in a lot of ways on games that he would lose, or just how his team would come out prepared. You didn't want to play Andy Reid after a bye week. That's for sure. But other than that, man, any given Sunday, you can just get stuck in his ways.
I mean, for us, we had a great defensive coordinator. He had a great defense, and he had McNabb and no receivers, but we had good running game at times. He had some good lineups, but he did a lot of good things coaching. He had a great scheme, and he knew how to manage things well early on. Those 4 NFC championship games, didn't win one, but until 2004 or 2005. But those were fun until we lost in the NFC championship game. But it's things move on, and you just can't stop the wheels of time. But it's fun to look back, because like you said, I got tons of those. I go through my Facebook, and those pop up all the time. So I was always be ranting about the Eagles, never stop.
All right, so the Eagles are missed. I know it's not the Eagles, but the Eagles are missing that Andy had back then, that he'll still that Sirianni is probably starting to get.
What's that?
Is those big time captains. Like, even though Fletcher Cox is he's a good captain, don't get me wrong, and Kelsey is as well too, but like that B Dog, that Jeremiah Trotter, something like that Hugh Douglas guy. And Fletcher Cox may be that, and Slay may be that. But I think over the years they grew, and we knew who the leaders were. And I guess Fletcher Cox is one of the leaders on that team, big time.
I would say so. And I'd say Slay, you're right. It used to be, Riley McLeod, and we had some guys. Malcolm Jenkins was definitely that for us. But we have not had the plethora, the abundance like we used to have in the past. I do say this, Jalen Hurts is on his way. He is serious as a heart attack, and he knows the game, and the more he gets and the more respect he earns, the more guys are going to look to him for answers, to be that calming force. All right, so now let's look at the disaster that you put me through on this past week. Here's the scores from our fantasy last week. You beat me 140 to 128. I had a shot when Kittle did score a touchdown in the 49er Rams game, but then they took it off the board because he was out of bounds. I got to within 132. Still wouldn't have beaten you. I think that even with that and a few more points, I think I would have finished even with that touchdown like 134, 135. So if you look at the scores, it's just devastating, man. Drake London, against Cleveland, I thought he put up some points. Nothing. Dalvin Cook, 10 points against New Orleans, sucks in London, didn't do jack. Aaron Jones, at least 14 against New England. I could have used more. Kittle, the tight end, like I said before, is killing me. I've had very little production from the tight end. I don't think I have a single touchdown from the tight end position yet. Sutton had a decent game. Sutton seems to always be consistently in the 14 to 16 range for me. And then Buffalo kind of, 13 points. You can't complain when your defense gives you that. But on your side of the ball, you just had solid performers like you've had. You see, each and every week you're 3-1, and there's a reason. Mahomes is always putting in numbers for you. So, and you told me, you told me you picked up Dallas on a whim, and it's paid dividends. I can't believe they were on the waiver wire.
Got me either. And that was only because New England, mind you, they were on the waiver wire for like 3 weeks. I picked them up week 3. I had New England the first 2 weeks of the season.
I don't get it.
That's how long they were out. That I had, like I said, I picked them up 3rd, and I mean they paid off every week so far. Granted, it could just be the flow of their schedule with the NFC East, but even if I had them against Tampa when they played a good team to start out the season, Tampa didn't kill them. I think they scored it was like 19-3 or something that game, but it wasn't Tampa didn't kill them. They still got Brady and ruffled them a little bit, but yeah, man, Dallas has a really get after it defense, and their offense has been keeping the ball, running the game, just kind of like that game manager that Rush is. I think that's been helping as well too, versus those when they play with Dak, it feels like they're like boom or bust, like really high. Either they're going to kill you, go right down, boom, 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 and look flawless, or they can look really sloppy. But Rush, even though they don't put up a lot of points, and they just kind of methodically move down the field, and they may punt, but they're holding the ball longer.
Right. That's a good point.
It's helping the defense a lot.
He's doing that game management stuff where you're running the ball quite a bit. Yeah, exactly. So you're going to have a lot of high time of possession. You're right.
Jimmy Garoppolo type, where you just look up and you're like, dang, they're still in the games, because like Jimmy, he's just kind of just in the game. He'll make a play here, make a play there, but he's just kind of just in the game. So
yeah, and you're right. So for them to be on the waiver wire and you to get that kind of production, it's really going to speak volumes when the Eagles play the Dallas, because you got 2 of the top defenses right now in the league that are going to go head to head. I'm excited for that. Unlike last night's game where you had 2 defenses that just bored the heck out of you. At least on the Dallas Philly game, it's going to be exciting. That was a dumpster fire of a game last night. It was just
I didn't want it to be that way. I went against Denver's defense last night, man. So he got him like about 21 points as we
Whoop, exactly. There it is. So you're playing Wilmo's world, who's projected right now to beat you with that performance, but it's not over yet. Early projections mean absolutely nothing in fantasy. I can attest to that. So you want to break down any changes you made to your team or anything you're going with this week that you didn't last week?
Yeah, man. So Will Dissly, Pitts is hurt. He's out this week. So, Will Dissly, I'm going to put him in there, man. He's had some really solid weeks. Every week, I think he's caught a touchdown 3 out of the 4 weeks. How about that? That's not enough data for you alone. He may not have a high target rate, but somehow Geno Smith seems to find him. And that's been doing a lot better than Pitts, as Pitts don't even have that on his resume. So it's not that I have like high confidence in him, but I just think, New Orleans, I don't really know what we're going to get out of New Orleans. So in Seattle, I mean, even though they still put up 48 points on the Lions last week, it's still 48 points. Something is working in the offense where they're able to put up 48 points. You can't really sneeze at 48. I can see, 28, you can go, they got, but 48 points, that's something is going right in that offense that you don't, because these are still professional defenses that you're scoring 48 points against. So can't sleep on that. But Dissly is the main thing. Jake Elliott being hurt in my kicker slot. So there's Ryan Suckup. I just took the highest kicker I took the kicker with the most points available. He had double the points that Elliott has. So I was like, damn, I should have been had Suckup. What was I doing? So yeah, I mean, I didn't once I let go of Elliott, I seen that he wasn't even in the top 10 in kickers, top 11 in kickers. Yeah, so I was like, man, I should let him go.
You know what the thing is the Eagles are scoring touchdowns. So that's not what we're used to doing. It's not like he's missing field goals. Right. They're just putting up he's getting his extra points.
Right.
And it's just like the Jacksonville game. They only elected to go for a field goal that one time because it was, against the wind. Mm-hmm. Or I mean, not into the wind, but with the wind at his back. And so, yeah, otherwise the Eagles tend to go for it on fourth down. Yeah. So it just is what it is. So, yeah,
and
otherwise
Adam Thielen. Sorry, my bad.
Yep. Yeah, no, go for it. Go for it.
And Adam Thielen, he's coming off a couple back-to-back really good weeks. So I was like, man, I can't bench him anymore. I'm kind of I have an embarrassment of wide receivers. I have DJ Moore still on my bench. I have Juju Smith. I have Garrett Wilson still on my bench. So and Christian Kirk, Devontae Adams, and Adam Thielen. So I have 6 wide receivers that can really start every week. But Thielen has the hot hand right now, so I'm gonna go with Thielen. Yeah, man, I think they'll be able to beat Chicago too. So maybe Thielen can get some work. But Chicago has one of the top rated passing defenses in the league. Man, they rank like 31st. it shows up red. Right. Like if you with the matchup,
yeah,
good matchup. Yeah, man, Thielen is dead red, man, ranked 31st.
Wow.
So all odds are saying don't start him. But I'm going to start him this week because Kirk Cousins still seems to find him between 6 to 8 times a game. So that's good enough for me. And Juju, reason why I don't have Juju up there is because, man, it seems like they're playing Juju like a tight end in Kansas City. He's always lined up super tight, having the block. He's just not running the same free routes as he was when he was playing with the Steelers, man. So just got to really feel Juju out. He may just be a bye week player, man. So yeah, those are our changes for this week, man.
Gotcha. Yeah, Juju has not really performed the way everybody thought he would with Mahomes as his quarterback. And I don't know if it's a scheme thing, like you said, or he's just not got chemistry with Patrick. We don't know. Yeah, for me, I'm projected to win right now. But again, like I said, that means nothing. I need a lot. I am going up against Bridgewater, which is weird. We'll see how he does against the Jets. It's probably a decent play with them being against the Jets. It is on the road, so I'm hoping for that. I'm hoping for a Miami victory. I am going against AJ Brown, which sucks. So I hope he puts up 30, and then the rest of his team puts up nothing. And Goddard. So I hope Goddard puts up another 20. So it's great when on an Eagles week, my opponent's playing 2 of the key Eagles receivers. So that's a lot of fun. But for me, I've really not changed anything except one. I traded Devontae Smith last week for Josh Jacobs. I didn't start him, and he went off for 34 points. Word is out of Las Vegas that Josh McDaniels is like, Jacobs is our guy. He's going to be our workhorse. He's going to be at 75% of the snaps. So I'm definitely putting him in at the flex. I'm giving Cook and Jones just one more opportunity to really produce, because I do have other backs on the bench. I have Breece Hall, who I've not started yet this week, and he had 15 points last week. He outperformed both Cook and Jones. I have Rashad Penny, who went 28 points last week. Didn't start him. And now I have Isaac Pacheco, who I drafted and have been holding on to. He had 6 points, and a lot of people are looking to him he's moving up into Edwards-Helaire's domain. If you watch this kid run, this is why so many people were high on him in fantasy, is he's got this burst and this intensity about him that really it stands out when you watch him go. And I think that the coaching staff of Kansas City has seen that. So I'm holding on to him. Not going to let him go. But yeah, I've got other alternatives at running back, so I may have to mix it up. The biggest thing I have is Cook with his injury, Jones with having to platoon with Dylan. Those things always spell doom for me, and it's really, I've struggled. Wide receiver wise, I'm okay. I got Debo and Courtland Sutton, who had 12 points last night in a slog of a game against Indianapolis. But even in a slog like that, Courtland comes up with like one big play a game. He usually is good for anywhere from 14 to 16 points. So you had to start him, but only going with those 2 guys. Kittle, who sucks, hasn't done crap for me this year. Hopefully at Carolina, both him and Debo can have a good game, or else I'm going to be looking for other options at tight end. And then Buffalo is Buffalo. So That's our fantasy for this week. Like I said, we're going to go into our pick segment now, but if at any time anybody wants to come in and ask us about fantasy, or even just you can always email us your fantasy questions too, and we'll try to pipe them in for the next week's show. So you can just reach out to us at our email address, which is lee.bird, that's byrd.eaglesdare@gmail.com, and you can ask us your fantasy questions in advance and then tune in for the show. So if you got any, go ahead and let them fly. Otherwise, we are going to go into our pick segment. And the results have been a little bit jostled amongst the people that play in our picks game. This is a personal game, just friends of the podcast. We have a new leader in Virginia McQuaid. She's at 140 points, which is outstanding. Man. Our leader from last week dropped 20 to 100. And then you've got a tie there for third. Look who's in third place now, and a tie for third. There he is, Donald Bird, which is Tubby, and he went plus 80 this week, along with yours truly. We both had picks against the spread master classes this weekend. But if you look down at around the 20th mark, that's where you'll find me. I did move up from 25th to 20. I've been having a hard season, but I went from negative 200 to negative 120. So I hope to keep that rolling. Maybe take some chances this week. I was going to take Indy last night, and then we talked about Jonathan Taylor being out, and that put me over the edge to go to Denver. Man, I wish I would have stayed with Indy, because that would have been a victory right off the bat, but nothing to worry about since.
So what happens there? Because is it a push?
No. It's the underdog wins because first of all, Indy was getting 3 points.
So if you picked Indy, that wins, because even though so the push,
that would have been Indy won outright, so it doesn't matter. Underdog.
Well, it was a push. It was 3 points.
But Denver wasn't getting 3; they were giving 3.
Right, but I'm saying either plus or minus is a push, right?
Well, not if
it should be over 3.5. You would have.
We're still on the same page here, because Denver's giving 3 points. So Indy's final score with the 3 points was 15-9, because Indy won 12-9
by 3.
Yeah. So Indy had won by 3 on top of the 3 points they were getting.
Okay, I guess in the betting world, that's a push, because it's right on the line.
How? Because they're getting points.
How
is that a push?
Because they got exactly the line. Normally they'll push if it's the line.
I thought it would be if.
So maybe it is if it's
Denver,
3.5.
I was thinking if Denver was getting the points they lost by 3.
You're right. Yeah,
Denver wasn't. Denver was the favorite, so no matter what, Indy covered.
Yeah.
Now in our game,
that's right, because they won the game anyway. I got you.
Right. My brain was hurting.
Yeah, I was off. Yeah, they won anyway. If underdog wins, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yes, so they were getting 3 and they won. But yeah, in our game, it's a good point that if Denver would have just won by 3, they didn't cover. So because the way we've got the formula set up, I don't like ties. I don't like ties in our game. So it automatically is if the favorite does not win by more than the line, then the underdog gets the point. So you have to keep that in consideration. So a 3-point spread is really technically they need to win by 4. A 3.5 would be a 4, that kind of thing.
I got you.
So anyway, so that's where our standings are right now. We're going into this week. We'll see how it is. I did mention the last night's game. We both had Denver, so we both took a loss on that one. Sucks, whatever. But the rest of the week, here's the picks that we have. Some of them are the same. Like we both have the Giants covering the 8.5 in London against Green Bay. Do you think Green Bay wins that game outright, or you think the Giants will win it?
I think, I'm not really sure. If I'm honest, I don't really know what we're getting out of Green Bay. Like they, every game is kind of like I don't think they should have struggled with the Patriots at all. But they did. So I do think Green Bay will win the game. I just don't know if they can win by 9.
Right. I actually wouldn't surprise me if the Giants don't win that game outright. And I'll tell you why. Is it like you said, they struggled with the Buccaneers 14-12, and Tom Brady had no wide receivers. They struggled against a rookie quarterback who took the lead from them at the end of the game. What I'm seeing is Aaron Rodgers struggling without Devontae Adams, without consistency in weapons, and all they've got is their ground game. But here's the thing: is one thing about Aaron Rodgers in the ground game, his ego will not let them run the ball as much as he wants to pass. He always overrides that crap because he's Aaron Rodgers. So he does end up hurting his team in those situations. Just my opinion. So with Saquon Barkley and the Giants defense playing decent enough to frustrate him, I definitely think they're going to stay within 8.5.
Mhm.
And they may just win it outright.
It's crazy how average he looks when you give him average receivers. Like, you know, you give him the same receivers that like most quarterbacks have in the league, you know, because before that, you had Jordy Nelson. Jordy Nelson was a beast. He was one of the best receivers in the league, man. Basically won in the Super Bowl. Nelson, you know, was a beast in that Super Bowl. And it seems like in those monster defenses, Green Bay used to have some. Remember, we used to have Clay. You know, all them shampoo commercials with Clay.
Yeah.
I'm just saying how hyped and how good their team was as a whole. It wasn't just Aaron Rodgers. Like, they had a good defense too. Back when they was doing all the little discount double checks, and they had a good team, man.
And he still only wins one Super Bowl, and like we talked about this last week, it's like, you know, there's quarterbacks that have performed better with no wide receivers. Aaron Rodgers isn't one of them. And so that's why I don't get the love this year. I know they're 3-1, but they've only played one tough team, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't consider Tampa Bay a tough opponent for them because they were down. If Tampa Bay would have had Mike Evans and all their regular wide receivers and Godwin, I would have been like, yeah, no, that was a good quality victory. I believe that if Brady would have had Godwin and Evans, they would have beat Green Bay. They only lost by 2 with nobody for Brady to throw to.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. The next game, we really can talk about it or not. We've talked about the Eagles in Arizona, but we made kind of this little pact. I won't never take the Eagles, and you will never not take the Eagles. So you've got them given 5.5 to Arizona. I've got I'm going with the trap game on the road. The only time I'll ever take the Eagles is if it's a really full spread. For me, it's just a matter of just superstition more than anything at this
point.
If
you want to know how we feel about this game, just check out our preview.
That's right.
Previous pod.
You can check out the preview on our replay on our YouTube channel or Facebook or Twitch. We've got it. We did it yesterday. We talked about this game. The next game, though, we did differ on, and it's a tough one to pick. Buffalo is at home giving 14 to Pittsburgh. You took Pittsburgh getting the points, I'm assuming, because 14 points.
That's all it was about.
Yeah. For me, I don't even think 14 is enough with Pittsburgh right now. The way they're looking, the way that they look, they look horrendous. And if Kenny Pickett is going to get the start over Trubisky, which I don't know 100%, I think this could be.
He is.
Yeah, so this could be even worse.
But even Kenny Pickett, well, it was the points. It's just because Buffalo, if every week, even the games where they've had blowout games, it's all been in the second half. It was 10-10 against the Rams. They lost to the Dolphins. They were down to Baltimore, and that's really just a decision of hardball, just kicking the field goal and then stopping them. They lose that game too.
Right.
Well, they only scored 10 points their last game at the half. They've been a second half team, or I guess that was the Baltimore game. They only scored 10 against Baltimore to start in that first half.
Right, in the first half,
yeah. But then every game, even the game where they blew out the Titans, that was the second half. It was like 17-10 at the half. It was a close game in that Titans game. So even though Buffalo, you know, I mean, even though they're looked at as the top team, they've started really slow. And I'm just thinking, you know, let's say Kenny Pickett, he threw 3 picks last week. That's concerning in one half. He played one half football, but he threw 3 interceptions. So, but if he can give him a spark, man, maybe this is the time that George Pickens really comes out and really does it. So because Pittsburgh, they have the weapons. Deontay Johnson's a good receiver. Claypool's a good receiver. George Pickens a good receiver. Fairmount, what's his name? He catches a couple passes here and there. They're tight.
And you got
Najee Harris. And end it off, you have Najee Harris. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. I just think maybe
it makes sense.
Pittsburgh gets the points. This is a point spread based off of Trubisky. And I think maybe we don't know what we're going to get out of this Pittsburgh offense with a new quarterback.
I will say this. I'm licking my chops if I'm the Buffalo defense at home going up against Kenny Pickett And that's why I kind of took it. And I'm hoping that me having Buffalo on defense and fantasy, this turns into a several interception game that leads to several points. But yeah, it's tough. For 14 is a lot.
Yeah.
But
And
this one I had to
travel for Pittsburgh to get to Buffalo.
Yeah.
That's nothing.
We'll see.
Oh yeah.
The next one we've got is the Chargers giving 3 at Cleveland. I took the home dog, and you've got the Chargers giving 3. It's very simple. I'm taking Cleveland at home. Number one, because they're home. They've got an excellent running game, a semi-adequate defense, and Bosa's out, and Herbert is banged up still. So I just was like, you know what? I'm going to take a flyer on Cleveland. I know they had a rough game against Atlanta. I'm going to take them to come back home and bounce back, and Jacoby Brissett to play decent enough for them and their running game to get a win. So that's why I took it.
Yeah, man. I just like the Chargers, like they did last week. They scored. Eckler had a hell of a day last week. I just think this team they still have a good receiver in Mike Williams. Cleveland, I think it's mainly because some of the games I thought they would win, like last week, how they lost to the Falcons. When I thought, for them to lose to the Falcons was like, dang, they really lost to the Falcons, So for them to lose to the Falcons, I didn't think that was a good look for them. Considering that I think Riddler should probably get in there and they should just sit Mariota down. He's not really giving them a spark, but when you have that nice little comeback last week and win, it's like, how can you sit Mariota down? So I still want to see what Riddler's out of Cincinnati, right? Is that same Riddler, right?
Out of
Cincinnati.
Yeah.
So, see what they have with him. So I don't know, man. I just picked the Chargers. I just think they can outscore Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, 3-point spread could go either way. The next one is tough. We disagree on it. Minnesota's given 7 to Chicago. Minnesota's at home. I wish the spread were 6 because I hate the full touchdown. And that's why Vegas is smarter than most of us. And so, but I had to take Minnesota because I don't have a lot of faith in Chicago's offense. Defensively, they can stand with a lot of teams, and maybe that's what wins them the game. But it's a tough one because it's a full touchdown, which means Minnesota, for me to get it, has to win by 8. So that's a tough one.
With man, I just I don't know, man. Some of these I don't have the ultimate rhyme or reason, but it was just that number 7. If it was 6.5,
yeah,
silly enough, because Minnesota struggled last week against a team I thought they should have whooped in the Saints. I thought they should have whooped the Saints, but then you look up and the Saints are a field goal away from tying it and going to overtime. So I'm like, man. I think
Saints defense is pretty good offensively, and I actually think that Dalton's better for that team than Jameis because of the lack of turnovers. So I think that had I known Dalton was going to start, I may have not picked the Vikings. I may have picked the Saints, just to be honest. It's just, and it's not that Dalton is the second coming of a ginger Jesus. It's just that he's that game manager guy. When you've got a decent ground game and a good defense, you just need a guy to be able to not turn it over. Right. And poor Jameis, man, he has not found an interception he doesn't like. He just tends to just throw it. He's a gunslinger.
Oh yeah.
So he tends to throw it up, and that's a dangerous.
He's a high risk, high reward type of guy. That's why you'll see him on fantasy football one week and you want to pick him up because he's thrown 5 touchdowns, and then next week he's thrown 5 interceptions. You're like, man, what? And 2 of them are pick sixes, and you're just like, wow, how did I get negative? So he's one of those high risk, high reward. He's kind of like a Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, exactly.
How, 1 week you can have Fitzpatrick and get you 5. Next week,
nothing.
He can absolutely throw you out of a game. So that's why I like to put you up against, because they can play. They have good arms, but sometimes you just never know where the ball is going to go. Yeah, man. I don't know who's better to start there. Yeah, New Orleans is a mystery to me because Michael Thomas is in, then he's out, and he's out. Yeah,
we both agree that they should beat Seattle because we don't know if that 48 was an aberration. They are at home. They've got a decent defense, and they're only giving up 5.5. So we'll take New Orleans this week, both of us. The one we disagree on above that is New England at home giving 3 to Detroit. Now, I'll be 100% honest. I wanted to take Detroit this week. My problem is that defense. I think they will score some points in New England. Until that defense shows that they can stop anybody, I'm very cautiously optimistic about their chances. I do hope I get this wrong. I want to see Detroit do well, especially since the Eagles beat them. I want all of our opponents after we're done with them to look good. So I get why you're picking them. I think Detroit offensively, number one offensive team in the league as far as scoring points, but defensively worse than the league. It's like you can't have 2 extremes like that.
Yeah, man. And for me, it was just that. I just think they can outscore them with the new, with the backups in. So, New England, I don't think Mac Jones is playing again this week. So I'm just hoping that Detroit can outscore them. That's it.
Yep, makes sense. We both agree the Jets, this is a weird one. Both agree the Jets as an underdog at home will beat the Dolphins, which is, it's weird to say because the Jets are not a great team, but they seem to have found a spark with Wilson last week in that game against the Steelers. And Steelers are not that great, but they are coming back home. It's a division rivalry game. I think Miami is going to be fine if they get Tua back, but I'm not big on Bridgewater just coming in and starting right now. Their running game has been decent, but I don't know how it will be in this game. So yeah, it's a tough one. I think we're both on the Jets train for this week anyway. We both think that Tampa Bay will beat Atlanta at home by 9. I think it's mainly on the back of that Tampa Bay defense. Could be wrong there too. These games, sometimes these division games get close. Atlanta is an enigma to me. They can play outstanding one week and hold the Rams and then make them look like they're in the game and almost actually come back and win it. And then they turn around the next week and lose to Cleveland, so it's, or actually beat Cleveland, but nearly lose to Cleveland and struggle at home. So Atlanta, I can't figure out. After that, we both like Tennessee giving the 2 points at Washington. Washington is right now just a complete and utter dumpster fire since their opening day win. They've lost 3 straight. Tennessee is starting to get their groove back. Henry's now starting to chug a little bit. It's a road game, but it's only 2 points. So that one was, I think, a no-brainer. And that's your lock of the week. So a lot of people like that one in the league is a lock of the week. I will admit.
Tennessee played well last week.
Yeah. How can you not like it?
If they can play well, if they play anywhere close to how they played last week, Washington has just simply struggled. Jahan Dotson is out this week as well. I have no reason to pick Washington is my point.
Yeah, until Carson Wentz stops getting sacked and stops turning the ball over, then there's no point in picking Washington. After that, we both like Jacksonville. I think we both know why, is the way they played the Eagles, the way we've watched them in the past. We've talked them up. Even though it's a 7-pointer, they're going to be playing at home against a Houston team that hasn't showed anybody much of anything. So we both like the Jaguars given 7. After that, we differ on the San Francisco-Carolina game. You've got San Francisco given 6.5, and I think that's at Carolina. I think that's totally reasonable. I think this is a dumb pick for me. It's just something. It's like I expect Carolina to have a good game soon, just one, and I think this one they can cover. I think they can stay within 3 against the San Francisco team. Because here's the thing about San Francisco defense: they'll kill you. But Jimmy G, they have not scored a lot of points, and they did it again this past week, Monday night. They 11-10 against the Broncos, for crying out loud. So to me, out of all the teams Carolina plays, don't know if they'll beat the 49ers, but I hope they can stay within 6.5. So I'm just taking a chance. That's all that is.
Carolina is just sloppy.
It's true.
They're just a sloppy team. C-Mac coming off of a 27-yard week last week. They're just sloppy. And I don't like the spread necessarily, but they're sloppy enough where I can look up and see that Frisco can win this game by 10.
Yeah, I agree. But I'm going to take a chance. That's the only reason I got this. We both like Dallas as an underdog, which is crazy, at LA to beat the Rams. I think it's because the Rams haven't shown us anything this year. They've been up and down all year. I don't know where they stand. I don't know where Stafford stands. Kupp is the only one that's really performing for that team on offense. Everybody else has been absent. Robinson's been absent. It's been a slog. So giving 4.5 to Dallas, the Rams may win, but it may just be a field goal. I think Dallas's defense goes in there. And you know what I hate about this game is if Dallas wins, oh my good Lord. Oh my good Lord. Just the memes and the listening, the everything everywhere, the media. Oh, Super Bowl champs, Cooper Rush, blah, 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 blah. So part of me wants them to win this game because, again, I want them on a high coming into the Eagles game. I don't want to face a defeated opponent. But the other half, I know if the Cowboys do win this game, we're not going to hear the end of it. So at least until the Eagles shut them up in week 6 on Sunday night. So both of us have Dallas. The next one, we both actually have Baltimore beating Cincinnati. Baltimore at home giving 3 to the Bengals. I made this my lock of the week, and I'll tell you why. Is the Bengals needed to nearly kill Tua Tagovailoa just to win a game. They have been searching for an identity after last year's, miracle AFC Championship game. Love the Bengals. I love their identity as a team. I love Jamar Chase. I like the players. I live here near Cincinnati, but I'm also a realist, and this looks like a very confused team. And they're going up against a Baltimore team. They're pretty ticked off after the Dolphins come from behind and beat them, and then the Bills come from behind and beat them. They're at home. To me, this smacks of they're just out for blood, and they don't care who the opponent is.
Right.
So I made this my lock of the week. I think if the Ravens don't walk away with a win this week, they're going to have to start looking in the mirror and asking themselves some questions, because that means they're not standing with anyone.
Yeah.
So.
They I think they're like 0-5. I think they lost like 5 straight home games or something like that. So I think this is a pissed off Baltimore team, and I think they're out for it, because I believe they believe they should be undefeated.
Oh yeah,
right now, as well as they have been playing at times, and then they'll just have these lapses. And
at the end of games, both of them at the end.
Yeah, and it sucks when the teams that you have lost against is like, man, you need those wins on your resume. Miami, Buffalo, you have those 2 on your resume. I mean, whoa, you're at it. I mean, teams, you are a Super Bowl favorite after that. It depressed me. Believe me, if Baltimore were 4-0 right now, they would be Super Bowl favorites.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, with that beating Buffalo, if they would have beat Buffalo and Miami, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely, without a doubt. That's the Sunday night game, so I'm looking forward to that one. And then the Monday night game this week is a AFC West rivalry showdown. Always looks usually a good game. Definitely be better than that Denver Indy game last night. But the Kansas City Chiefs are given 7 at home to the Raiders. And normally, like I said, this game could come down to 3 points, but the way Kansas City is playing is really kind of on another level. The way they played Tampa Bay and that defense putting up a ton of points shows me that they're just now getting into a rhythm. That preseason rust is over. Mahomes is being Mahomes. So against the Raiders, who are really, I think it might be time to pull the plug on Derek Carr. I mean, he had Amari Cooper. He couldn't do anything. Everybody said, "Oh, Amari Cooper, he's gonna do well." No, he didn't do anything. And then they get Devontae Adams. Oh, this will be it for Derek. This will be what puts him over the edge. He's had Darren Waller, and he's got Hunter Renfrow, and he still can't win ball games. Granted, he can't do it all. The defense has to come through, and Vegas has melted down a couple times, like against Arizona. So but I just don't see it. I just don't see the Raiders staying in this game or making it much of a game. So
yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I just it's just weird, man. I don't know what this Vegas team can give you. I don't like the 7-point spread. I never like really spreads over 6.5.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't like the spread, but Kansas City at home, I can see them winning this game by definitely more than 7, probably about. But in Vegas Jacobs had a really good game last. So I feel like for the first time, because they have a new coach this year, right? Isn't this his first year, McDaniels?
Yes, McDaniels' first year.
So you have to give a team a little time to catch up. And last week was the first time they looked good. I mean, after they blew that game against the Cardinals, they were pissed.
Oh, yeah.
So you could just see the whole team play better. And I think that's why McDaniels comes out and says, Jacobs is going to be our workhorse, because they need something. You talked about identity with the Bengals. I think Vegas is doing the same thing. They like, man, we know we have all the pieces, just like the Bengals. The Bengals like, we know we have the offense, but yet we're not really. We're playing well in spurts, not consistently. So, yeah, man, I like Kansas City here.
I do too, and you make good points about Josh Jacobs. The Denver team has got a really good defense, and yet he went off for 34 fantasy points on him. He had a great game. I forget what the actual numbers are. Let's take a look real quick. He had 89% of the snaps against Denver, which is insane. 28 carries for 144 yards, 2 touchdowns against Denver.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good defense. We could agree to that. That's one thing Denver's doing well, is playing defense. So yeah, that could change the game. I'm talking myself out of picking Kansas City, but not enough. That could change everything in Kansas City. I think Kansas City will be ready for the Raiders, though. So I think that it's a totally different opponent. It's one that can score on you and keep the ball a little bit, which Denver doesn't seem to be able to do. So I think the Raiders may be in for a little bit of it. Going into our 3 college picks, we always do 3 college picks every week in our pick segment against the spread. We both like Kansas at home. I'm surprised this is 7 points against TCU, so I was definitely going to take that one. We both like Tennessee on the road at LSU. This is a Tennessee team that's up and the LSU team that's on its way down with Kelly. He's not really made a statement this year. They have seemed to be, I mean, it's his first year, so we got to give him a little bit of slack. So, but I'm not going to give him slack on this picks. I'm taking Tennessee, even though it's in Baton Rouge. But and then our final pick, we do differ on. You know more about the Pac-12 than I do, so I took Utah just based on purely on records and looking at the past games. They are in UCLA, and that could be a big difference. But you like UCLA at home, getting 4.5 points.
Yeah, man. I last week against Washington, I thought Washington was going to whoop them, but they answered the bell every single time. They made Perrion. They made him. I think he took his first. I think it was like his first sack of the year. His first, probably only his second interception of the year. They all of a sudden now he has 2 interceptions on the year. Like, they really rattled the really veteran quarterback. And I thought Chip had a really solid game plan. So I was really surprised that UCLA beat Washington, and as 4-0, they were still unranked at the time. So, newly ranked 5-0 UCLA. With Utah, they beat the Ducks. I get that, and they look really good against them as well too. But the Ducks haven't been super impressive this year either. And I just like the point spread. I think UCLA is going to win this game, not even just as an underdog. So I like them. I like UCLA here. I like the way they looked last week. They looked really sharp.
You could be right in this one, and I probably made a mistake. I mean, Utah did take Florida to the wire. They only lost by 3 in the swamp, but they barely beat an Arizona State team. 34-13 is barely beating in my eyes when they're really that bad. Arizona State's bad. They're one of the worst teams in the Pac-12 this year. They fired Herm Edwards, which I don't think was great because it's not all his fault. And I love Herm, but they're bad. And then they beaten San Diego State 35-7. So yeah, I'm not 100% sold on Utah now that I look at it. but it's too late. I've already taken them, and I'm taking them on the road. We'll see what happens. I'll probably get there. I tell you what, if you look at my college picks, they always suck. I watch Michigan. I watch a few other teams in college. I watch some top 25 key games, but I don't get really in depth in it like I do with the NFL. So that's where my lacking is. I've picked my Thursday night games have screwed me. I've picked my college games have screwed me, and my doubles have screwed me. So those are 3 things you need in this picks game in order to do well, and I'm not doing any of those things well. So it really sucks.
Yeah, buddy.
So now, before we go for this weekend and head out to enjoy the weekend of sports and football and all kinds of craziness, baseball playoffs starting this weekend. We got the Japan Grand Prix. If you like Formula One, we've got Premier League. We've got Liverpool and Arsenal this week. So, you are going on a journey for next week, aren't you? Now, I'm not going to give away too much because nobody knows where you live, but you're going to land of palm trees.
Yeah, man. I'm going on a little vacation for a week. You never know. I'm still going to try to pop up on the pod, but we'll be on vacation.
Well, we're going to try to have you on here on our recap show on Tuesday. We usually do it the day after the game, but because of your traveling and everything like that, we're going to try it. We're going to try to set up for Tuesday, and we're going to do our best to get Tubby on here so that he can comment on the game with me. We'll make it work. We'll figure it out. And same thing with the preview show next week, because next week is Dallas week. It's going to be big. We're going to try to have a special guest in the studio that is a Dallas Cowboy fan that we can kind of trash talk with back and forth about that. But right now, our opponent is the Arizona Cardinals. And that's what we have to focus on. We can't focus on Dallas yet. We haven't gotten past this game. And like we've said enough about this game. Now all that's left is to play it. Let's get the players out there, get them ready to go. Injuries, looking good. I don't want to see any injuries in this game. I just want them to come out healthy and be ready for Dallas. So that is Sunday. It's the late starting game, 4:25 Eastern in Arizona. Eagles at Cardinals. You ready for this one?
Oh yeah, man. It should be a good game. A little later, but it's not bad. 2:25 my time. Excited, man. Every Sunday, man, the Eagles are playing. I just can't wait, man. Win, lose, or draw. I just can't wait for the game to start. Yeah, man. Looking back on dang, I whenever I could have went to the game. It's just hour flight for me, hour and a half flight.
Oh, true.
It wasn't much at all to get down there to Phoenix. I could have drove probably like a 14-hour drive. But anyway.
You don't do that. Yeah, I'm going to the Indy game on the 20th. I went to the Detroit game, of course. So yeah, I love going. I don't want this undefeated thing to end just yet. I really don't. I'm confident about this game, but I don't want it to end. I want them to come away with the win. I want them to go into the Dallas game undefeated and then make a statement in that game. But it's not in my control. I just have to sit there and watch the game, baby. So thanks again to everybody for joining us on the Where Eagles Dare podcast for another week, whether you're joining us on our live stream on Twitch, Facebook Live, or YouTube. You can also follow us on any podcast provider that's out there. We're on Amazon Music, we're on Spotify, we're on Audible, we're on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Podcaster, Castro, many others. If we're not on one that you use, you can email us, and you can email us your fantasy stuff. You can email us questions, comments, anything at our email address. That's lee.bird, that's byrd.eaglesdare@gmail.com. We will be back here, like I said, next Tuesday to discuss what happened in the Eagles-Cardinals game. And with all that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Tubby for his final words of the week.
Hey, thanks for stopping by the Where Eagles Dare podcast. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe and share. Share our posts. If you know an Eagles fan out there, share it to them. If you know a fantasy football fan out there or a Picks fan, send it to them and come stop by and come chop it up with Lee and Tubby, man. With that said, man, fly, Eagles, fly.
And go Birds. Beat Arizona. We'll see you guys next week.